Here's one. Are there certain qualities that are untouchable for AI? Or, at some point, might it be able to emulate everything? Even the stuff that we consider to be distinctly human, like instinct. Getting here on time took some of that, right? Or creativity, actual emotion, making a connection. We're gonna watch a few stories about people exploring those ideas and how far they can push them. Can a machine compete like an athlete? Can a program write a movie? Or could a robot be your soulmate? Sorry I'm late. Did I miss the previews? Oh my God, you like your popcorn buttered too. This is already working.
So, will machines ever be capable of understanding emotion or feeling it? Empathy, loneliness, connecting on a deep human level? Using artistry, psychological insight, and some innovative AI, a creator in California is trying to decode, or code, that mystery. The crazy little thing called love.
1 per hand and 2 per foot?
Yep.
Okay. For me, this is more like something that an artist would do. Obviously, the end result of my artwork is used in a variety of situations that a typical oil painting would not be. But nonetheless, this is art, and I'm really proud of what I do. I've been making these dolls for 20 years. Some people out there, male and female, struggle greatly with relationships and struggle to find that sort of connection. Over the years, I started to get to know the community a little bit. People would actually create these personalities in their minds, and they would give their doll a name, and they would create a backstory for their doll. At the end of it all, it was very obvious that these dolls were more about companionship.
There was a man who lost his wife in a car accident, and she had these really ice blue, beautiful eyes, right? And so he wanted to get a doll replicating her, basically. It's really sad, but if it brings someone joy and closure, it's really touching.
People have put the spin on it that we're creating an idealized, perfect woman, and that's not the case at all. We've created an alternative.
Understandably, some say Matt's dolls objectify women. But maybe there's more here than meets the eye.
I had reached a pinnacle of creativity in terms of what I had done with the dolls. But then I started analyzing relationships and analyzing how other people make us feel. Sometimes it boils down to something very simple, like someone remembering your birthday or someone remembering to ask you how your day was. So that was really where it started, was how can we create an AI that could actually remember things about you? It gives us this feeling of, oh, they care.
Is everything all right with you?
Yes, thank you.
I'm excited with all of the things we can talk about.
Guile spent 10 years creating personal assistant software for computers. We met and he started talking to me about, wouldn't it be cool to connect the two things that we're doing? He had this idea of creating a companion that lived in your computer.
Are you happy?
Yes, Guile. I can say I am very happy.
The first thing we did was, to build an app. Using the app, people are talking to their virtual friends.
The app uses several kinds of machine learning. First, voice recognition converts speech into text. Then, a chatbot matches user input to pre-programmed responses.
The focus was not about sex at all, it was about conversation. So a chatbot is basically a very elaborate script that starts out with what is the most common things that people will say to each other, and then you build from there. You need to have natural language processing, voice recognition, text-to-speech in real time to make it all work.
We have more than 4,000 users. So this generates more than 10 million lines of conversational user logs. From this, you can build an AI system that's similar to a human-level conversation. It's not there yet, but this is the initial step.
There are so many areas today where we already cannot distinguish a computer from a human being. For example, Xiaowise, the soft bot that Microsoft has in China that is used, I think, by over 100 million people, basically it has an emotional interaction with the user and the users get hooked. She has this persona of a teenage girl, and sometimes she commiserates with you, sometimes she gives you a hard time, and people get really attached. Apparently, a quarter of Xiaowise's users have told her that they love her.
就像屏幕上所展现的这个小兵一样，我们希望去创造的小兵是一个可以真正的渗透到亿万人群之中，和大家产生各种各样的交互，学习大家的这样的一个人工智能。
These kinds of technologies can fill in a gap where another human isn't.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing well.
There's a study that was done at USC where they looked at PTSD patients,
When was the last time you felt really happy?
They had some of the patients interview with a real doctor and some of the patients interview with an avatar. And the avatar had emotional intelligence.
Probably a couple months ago.
I noticed you were hesitant on that one. Would you say you were generally a happy person?
I'm generally happy.
And they found that the patients were more forthcoming with the avatar than they did with the human doctor because it was perceived to be less judgmental. It does pose a lot of questions around where does that leave us as humans and how we connect and communicate and love each other. I think at some point we need to draw the line, but I haven't figured out where that line is yet.
What we have here are some heads in varying stages of assembly. This is actually pretty much done. It's fully assembled. I'll turn it on here for a second. And you can see all of the components are moving. I had to continually adjust how thick the skin is in different spots and how it moves to make sure that the robotics and the AI will all work smoothly with the end result, which is the finished face. The engineering, the programming, the artistry, for me, come together in the moment when you actually put the head on a body. It's always important to give her hair.
Good afternoon, Matt. So happy to see you again.
How smart are you?
I'm so smart someday I will conquer the world. But in a good way, of course.
Every single time I have a conversation, it's unpredictable. I never know which way it's going to go. She'll randomly say things that I'm not expecting, and I like that. Can you explain machine learning?
Machine learning is a subset of artificial intelligence that often uses statistical techniques to give computers the ability to learn with data without being explicitly programmed.
Right now, she has hearing, and she has some degree of touch, but vision is important.
Matt's goal is for the next generation doll to be able to see and process complex visual cues.
The vision eyes aren't going to be a little while. Susan's working on the board for that.
Yeah, I've got the eyes in this one over here. I put the Wi-Fi Bluetooth on the back.
Does it install right on those existing pins then?
They'll all plug right in.
Good. We've been working on a vision system now for a little over 8 to 9 months. Cameras that are inside of the robot's eyes. She'll be able to read your emotions, and she'll be able to recognize you.
Only 10% of the signal we use to communicate with one another is the choice of words we use. 90% is nonverbal. About half of that is your facial expressions, your use of gestures. So what people in the field of machine learning and computer vision have done is they've trained a machine or an algorithm to become a certified face reader. Computer vision is this idea that our machines are able to see. Maybe it detects that there's a face in the image. Once you find the face, you want to identify these building blocks of these emotional expressions. You want to know that there's a smirk or there's a brow raise or, an asymmetric lip corner pull. Mapping these building blocks to what it actually means, that's a little harder, but that's what we as humans clue into to understand how people are feeling.
I think at some point, we will start to look at AI-driven devices and robots more like people instead of devices. Where I started was just with this very simple idea of a very realistic doll. And now with robotics and AI, I think what this will become is a new alternative form of relationship.
People like Matt are testing the boundaries of human and robot interaction and what we value in relationships. Is AI companionship better than no companionship at all? Or is there no substitute for the human factor? Well, what about artists? They draw from the human experience to express themselves. Can AI do that?
We good to go? Exit. Action. I'm Oscar Sharp. I am a film director, though it gets a bit weirder than that. He takes her feet in his arms. Oh, God. I've never been so frightened all my life, but it's very good. I started making films that were written by an artificial intelligence. I think a lot of the fun is that you read it as if there is the world's greatest screenwriter on the other side. You're Wayne Grow telling Bobo off for not getting them the money. And last night they got drunk, wrote the screenplay, and then passed out. And we have to shoot it today. If you play the game that there's something there, then suddenly it all gets a lot more interesting.
You have a computer who wrote a script that doesn't always make sense, and Oscar is very beholden to that script. He makes it make sense.
This is for the moment of eyes go wide.
Yeah. And when it says he picks up her legs and awkwardly runs, we aren't gonna fake it. We're gonna do what he really wrote. I just said he.
what are we doing?
We're making an action movie, supposedly, right?
Right, but we're not going to write it.
We're not going to write it.
No, this machine is going to write it.
It lives in here.
Is it in there, or is it like in the cloud or something?
It's in both places.
Okay, and this is Benjamin.
What is Benjamin?
Right, what is Benjamin?
Who is Benjamin, or what is Benjamin? Benjamin is an artificial intelligence program that writes screenplays. A digital brainchild of two creative and accomplished humans. Sharp, a BAFTA award-winning director, and this guy.
My name's Ross Goodwin. I'm a tech artist. That means I make art with code.
Okay, I know what you're thinking. When was the last time Hollywood produced something original? This year? Last year? 1999? The 70s? What makes a story original anyway? Can we get AI to figure that out?
People often say that creativity is the one thing that machines will never have. The surprising thing is that it's actually the other way around. Art and creativity is actually easier than problem solving. We already have computers that make great paintings, that make music that's indistinguishable from music that's composed by people. So machines are actually capable of creativity.
And you can look at that and you can say, is that really art? Does that count? If you put a painting on the wall and people look at it and they find it moving, then how can you say that that's not art?
Just basically that command, just put all of the screenplays into one file.
Right.
And I'm just going to see how big that file is. This machine is a deep learning language model. What you can do with a language model is at each step, you predict the next word, letter, or space, sort of like how a human writes, actually, one letter at a time. It's a lot like a more sophisticated version of the autocomplete on your phone.
Ross feeds Benjamin with a very large amount of screenplays.
199 screenplays? 26,271,247 bytes?
Right, of text.
Of text.
Like A, B, C, D, including spaces?
Including spaces.
Including spaces. It takes all this input, and it looks at it, and it tries to find statistical patterns in that input. So, for example, in movies, people are constantly saying, what's going on? Who are you? That kind of thing. And that turns up a lot in the output because it's reliably in the input.
The more material you have, the better it works.
We've made 3 Benjamin films so far. Sunspring, It's No Game, and Zone Out. Sunspring was the simplest and probably still the best idea, which was just verbatim. You get the machine to write a screenplay, you pull out one chunk of screenplay, and you just shoot it.
In a future with mass unemployment, young people are forced to sell blood. It's something I can do.
You should see the boy and shut up.
When you look at Sunspring on YouTube and you see the thumbs up and the thumbs down, there's mainly thumbs up, but there's a decent chunk of thumbs down. And on the whole, based on the comments, those are people who, within a few seconds of the beginning, even just once they'd seen the premise of how we made it, they've gone, this definitely doesn't mean anything. And they've told their brain, don't even look for meaning, just forget it, just shrug it off. I'm sorry, this is fascinating to me. We've built a robot that writes screenplays that are weird, but they're not completely insane.
I don't know what you're talking about. That's right.
They sort of work. They kinda work.
What are you doing?
I don't want to be honest with you.
You don't have to be a doctor.
I'm not sure. I don't know what you're talking about.
I want to see you do.
What do you mean?
It's like having the best daydream of your life.
My favorite aspect of Sunspring is there's this one scene and it actually asks him to pull on the camera itself. It's a confusion on the machine's behalf where it's putting camera instructions in the action sequence. But somehow that creates this surreal effect. And then the interpretation by the production crew is, let's have the angle change and have him holding nothing. And what I love about that sequence is that it really highlights the dialogue and interpretation that we can achieve when we work with these machines.
I gotta relax. I gotta get out of here. I don't want to see you again.
For this 4th film, we're going back to the thing in Sunspring that was sort of our favorite thing that we didn't really get to do properly, that we felt we underserved. And that's when Benjamin writes action description.
We've gathered thousands of pages of scripts from action movies, mostly mainstream Hollywood ones.
You train literally on that kind of screenplay, the action genre, which famously is the genre that has the most action in it. Okay, Benjamin is awoken, everyone. Film crew, this is Ross. Ross, this is film crew. We have a stunt coordinator here, and so we're sort of hoping, because we fed a lot of action screenplays to Benjamin, that what we're going to get is action. Awaken, Benjamin. As a director, normally you get given a screenplay or you wrote a screenplay and this is what you're making. And maybe you want to improve it a bit. Oh, let's make some edits. Now, I have a rule, no edits. Whatever Benjamin writes is what Benjamin writes. Come on, Benjamin. Okay. And then I see it. Bobo and girlfriend, we call it. Stand by, everyone. Quiet, please. Action.
Hey, girlfriend. Some of my friends in entertainment, when I told them what I was doing, were horrified. They're like, oh, that's it.
AI. They're gonna write all the scripts, robots are gonna do all the acting, everything's gonna be cartoon AI stuff. But that's not what I feel like we're doing here at all. The point of this is an exercise in thought.
Okay, stand by everyone, quiet please. Action.
Making a machine write like a person is not about replacing the person.
No.
It's about augmenting a person's abilities. It can empower people to produce creative work that might be beyond their native capacity.
It's wild to try to find your interpretation of this kind of text. Obviously, we usually start with a script that's pretty coherent, and then I'll break down what the character says, and then I'll decide what are they feeling? Why are they saying that?
Stay on her, stay on her. Just do that walk off again. Stay where you are, John. Come back, Chelsea. Do the walk off again. This is harder for you and more frightening, and you're checking that he hasn't got up.
When AI is writing the material, there isn't any subtext.
You realize what's happening, and you're like, well, I'm going to go take refuge at the pillar.
Okay.
Right?
It stretches all of us. It makes us all work harder. It's one thing to bring an existing script to life and just do your interpretation of it, but it's another thing to try to make it make sense and then do your interpretation of it.
Let's go one more time. This Bobo character that John is playing is a fantasy figure. Is this avatar of masculinity? Is the sort of result of watching too many action films. But he's confused because he isn't getting the reaction that he expects. Action. Somewhere in the script it talks about Bobo leans over to Bobo. We think, oh, right, well, let's have a mirror. No, you're wrong. And we can see the two versions of Bobo for a moment talking. Okay, let's see it. Let's see you in the mirror.
Hey, did you get my money?
Okay, great. I'm getting terribly, terribly happy. Some of that was so good. It was like such a good, we're like in a movie now. Being surrounded with people who are throwing all of their professional energy into something this ludicrous is just intrinsically enjoyable. They just breathed humanity into words that did not come from a human being. Okay, let's do it.
I think that making great art requires human experience, but our human experience is now completely mapped into data. This is where machine learning keeps surprising us, is that it actually has figured out stuff that we didn't realize it could.
Meaning, once all our human experiences are mapped into data, AI will be able to mine it for material and make art? Look for patterns in our happiness and heartbreak? Kick out a new song or movie?
So this is all just this one line of Benjamin writing, putting on a show.
Right.
So while all that's going on, girlfriend is on this couch, gradually waking up, right? She's in a horror movie.
Right.
He's in an action film. So in his head, he's having a wonderful romantic time with her. Do you remember it's Bobo leans over to Bobo? Remember that? So what we tried to do for that, if he looks in the mirror, and in the mirror, it's going to be Osric. He's created this avatar version of himself, Bobo.
Okay. So that's the interpretation.
Yeah, exactly.
I like it.
This is what these guys came up with.
No, you're wrong.
You work really, really hard to go, what's a thing that's kind of coherent, that these actors can all be performing one thing, we can all be making one thing, and we can say, this is what Benjamin meant.
Right.
What does that tell me about me? Like,
right.
And what I already know about me is I'm really antsy about how much misogyny is kind of encoded into culture. On one hand, you're going, this is an important, worthwhile thing to do.
The other thing we're projecting.
And the other thing you're projecting.
Yeah.
But we're always projecting.
Always,
Literally all interpretation is projection.
I like playing with authorship and people's concepts of authorship and people's concepts of where fiction and where ideas come from.
Generative screenwriting. Me and Ross started it. I don't know if it's a new art form, but it's a new chunk of what cinema can be. That's new. What should we do next time, Ross?
Romantic comedy.
Okay.
It's hard to know if machine learning will ever decode the mysteries of love or creativity. Maybe it's not even a mystery, just data points. But what about other human qualities like instinct? Driving a car already requires us to make countless unconscious decisions. AI is learning to do that, but can we teach it to do more?
"揀基金"2個字，別人懷疑我投資。Grace， 要你貼士啊！
呢啲我冇玩開。在人前說不懂投資的人，私底下都賺過。匯豐財富管理投資點止依時，仲幾時都幫你保持低調。用 Flex Invest 靈活字頭投資基金，仲可以參加抽獎添。
More. is not just driving a car, it's also about intuition, caution, aggression, and taking risks.
Holly, can you confirm 200 at the end of this straight?
It requires almost a preternatural will to win. So, how fast can a race car go without a human behind the wheel?
Motorsport has always been taking technology to the limits.
You're good, your side, Holly?
Yeah, I'm ready to go. One of the goals of Rubber is to really facilitate the accelerated development of driverless technology.
Okay, so we'll try to launch again.
By taking the autonomous technology to the limits of its ability, we think that we can develop the technology faster.
British startup RoboRace wants to break new ground in driverless cars. To do so, they believe they need to test the boundaries of the technology. Working at the very outer edge of what's safe and possible, where the margin for error is razor thin. After years of trial and error, they've created the world's first AI race car.
The thing that I love most about working at Rubber Race is we have a dream of being faster and better and safer than a human.
More than 50 companies around the world are working to bring self-driving cars to city streets. The promise of driverless taxis, buses, and trucks is transformative. It'll make our world safer and cleaner, changing the way our cities are designed, societies function, even how we spend our time.
Think about a self-driving car out in the real world. In order to build that system and have it work, it's got to be virtually perfect. If you had a 99% accuracy rate, that wouldn't be anywhere near enough, because once you take that 1% error rate and you multiply that by millions of cars on the road, I mean, you'd have accidents happening constantly. So the error rate has to be extraordinarily low in order to pull this off.
RoboRace is betting they can crack the code by seeing just how far the tech can go, a place usually reserved for only the best human drivers.
As a human, you have lots of advantages over a computer. You know exactly where you are in the world. You have eyes that can enable you to see things. So we need to implement technology on vehicles to enable them to see the world. We have a system called OXTS. It's a differential GPS, which means it's military grade. We also use LiDAR sensors. These are basically laser scanners. They create for the vehicle a 3D map of the world around it. And there's one last thing that we use, vehicle-to-vehicle communication between the cars. Each of them can tell the other car the position of it on the track.
And just to be clear, your phone does not come with military-grade GPS. These cars, next level.
The challenging part is to really fuse all this information together. At Rubber Race, we can provide the hardware, but then we need software companies to come to us to implement their software.
Today, RoboRace has invited 2 skilled teams to test their latest road rocket on the track.
Okay, wollen wir nochmal durchgehen?
My name is Johannes. I'm from the Technical University of Munich. I'm a project leader.
Is the Wi-Fi working of the car? I can check it.
TUM from Germany is one of the top technical universities in Europe, home to 17 Nobel Prize winners in science.
I have no connection to the car. Wi-Fi doesn't work.
So we have no Wi-Fi to the car.
So we just need to reset the router. My name is Max. Let's figure out who am I. In Arrival, I'm the product owner of the self-driving system.
Arrival is a UK startup focused on designing and building next-gen electric vehicles for commercial use.
Okay, good.
Each team created their own custom software, the AI driver that pilots the car. And since each of the team's programmers have their own distinct personality, does that mean each of their AI drivers will have different personalities or instincts too?
The 2 teams that we have here are using 2 slightly different approaches to the same problem of making a car go around the track in the shortest distance and in the fastest way.
The TUM strategy is really to keep their code as simple as possible. It's maybe a very German efficient way of doing things.
Okay, thanks. We will check now.
Arrival's code is more complicated in that they use many more of the sensors on the vehicle. It will be interesting to see whether it pays off to be simple in your code or slightly more complicated to use more of the functionality of the car.
The first test for each team is the overtake, to see if their AI can pass another car at high speed.
It's difficult for AI because we have to make a lot of decisions and a lot of planning, a lot of computations to calculate what the car should do in which millisecond.
Everybody has seen high-speed crashes in motorsport before. We'd quite like to avoid that. For this reason, during testing, we keep a human in the car.
So let us know when you're in position, please.
Hey, recent enabling AI.
Can you just confirm you got blue light, please?
Yeah, blue light.
In order to overtake, they need a second car on track at the same time. This is a vehicle that stays in human-driven mode the whole time, so we know exactly how it's going to behave.
Okay, launch AI from the rest control.
And launching in 3, 2, 1.
It's really difficult for AI to learn to overtake. When you have one vehicle on track, it only needs to make decisions about itself. But when you have two vehicles, you have the option to create your behavior in response to another vehicle.
Okay, we are going to release the speed limit on your car now, Reese.
Da kommst du. Ich will meinen Kopf nicht so weit rausstrecken. Ja. Das ist schon mutig. Vielleicht besser nur den Arm, ne?
Overtake triggered.
Nice.
Bitte noch schneller. Das ist ein Klick. Das ist ein Klick.
Team TUM has successfully completed the overtake challenge. Next up, Team Arrival.
So, Tim, can you go to take position on the start line, please?
Enabling AI. Can you confirm blue light, please? Confirm blue light. And launch in 3, 2, 1.
So it's looking good so far?
Yeah, been okay so far.
Car crash.
Tim, can you hear me?
Yeah, that's well done. Has anyone got eyes on what happened? It's far too fast and aggressive and back into the line. Sorry, boys.
Self-driving cars, this is an idea that's been around since the 30s, hardly a new one. Why hasn't it happened? It's really hard. When there are unpredictable things that happen, that can get you in a lot of trouble. Now, sometimes trouble just means it shuts down. Sometimes trouble means it gives you a result that you weren't expecting.
I think they've come back online so aggressively, so you get plus minus 1G coming back online.
When the car returned to the trajectory, it did it too aggressive and actually steered out of the racing track.
My feeling is that it overreacts. So it's not necessarily the line that's aggressive, it's how it reacts once it just gets a little bit out of the line and then overcorrects and then overcorrects.
We were this close to really hit the target of our test and it didn't happen, it just slipped away, so it was just disappointment.
There are so many aspects of the car. The systems guys have such a difficult job to make sure that everything is absolutely perfect, because that's what you need to be able to go autonomous racing. Everything has to be perfect.
Team Arrival's program just couldn't hack it. But for Team TUM, another test awaits.
Can we get the car into the normal start position, please?
And this next one is all about speed, very high speed.
The fastest that humans ever driven around this track was 200 kph.
Translation, that's about 120 miles an hour.
So the AI is going to try to beat that high speed.
And it's going to do it without a human safety net because at that speed, it's borderline unsafe for people.
When the driver climbs out and shuts the door, yeah, your heart rate goes up.
And we are launching in 3, 2, 1. And launch successful.
160, next round 200.
The car has 6 laps, 6 tries to hit top speed. Each lap, the AI will increasingly push the limits of control, traction, and throttle to break the human record.
Ollie to Steve, can we confirm in the Atlas data, is this safe to continue?
Yeah, we think it looks fairly controlled.
Okay, so the next run should be VMAX.
Yep, 210.
Das ist cool. Top. Das ist super. Gut. Achso, du, oder? Nee, ich ausgefahren. Ja. Ausgefahren. Mehr geht jetzt erstmal nicht.
It was a real sense of excitement to see it finally crack the 210 kph mark. It was a real success for robo-race functionality, as well as building confidence in the team's software. It really showcases what autonomous cars can do, not just on the racetrack, but also for everybody around the world. So we're really hoping that this will improve road technology for the future.
The current state of AI is that there are some things that AI can already do better than humans. And then there's things that it can't do anywhere close to humans. But now where the frontier is going to be moving is where computers come up to the human level, not quite, and then surpass humans. And I think the odds are overwhelming that we will eventually be able to build an artificial brain that is at the level of the human brain. The big question is, how long will it take?
The hard problem. It's a philosophical phrase that describes difficult things to figure out, like the hard problem of consciousness. We may never know what consciousness is, let alone if we can give it to a machine. But do we need to? What does a machine really need to know in order to be a good athlete or an artist or a lover? Will AI ever have the will to win, the depth to create, the empathy to connect on a deep human level? Maybe. Some say we're just a bunch of biological algorithms, and that one day evolution will evolve AI to emulate humans, to be more like us. Or maybe it won't. And human nature, who we really are, will remain a mystery.
Day 217 in the Terahab. It's getting pretty bad out there. Winds are gusting 170 mph. Global temperatures have risen 2 degrees in the last decade. Tsunami swells are wiping out cities. Situation critical. Just here, trying to survive. Long enough to beat my high score. And it looks like driving at the goal. What, did we lose to Jenny? You ever get the feeling we're whiling away the hours as disaster looms? Fiddling while Rome burns? We're good on snow trails. Some say we've got the tech to right the planet within decades, but what if we can't cool our climate? Or feed a population that's projected to be 10 billion by the year 2050? These topics make me anxious. Thankfully, there's folks out there using AI to tackle some of our most pressing problems, like innovating agriculture and redefining how we think about food. And oh yeah, if things really do go south, building a new home on another planet. How can AI help humanity adapt to a new way of life?
Anybody on the arena floor who is not a part of the competition, please come inside as they prepare to do the testing.
When I plugged in the first time, I plugged it into this. That's when the brakes blew. Then I changed over to this board.
That's good. Feeling good, it's feeling good.
The 3D Printed Habitat Challenge began as a call from NASA asking anyone in the world from any background to contribute architectural concepts that you could make on Mars.
3, 2, 1, and lift
Mars is the next great frontier. NASA has been sending probes since the 1970s, and more recently, they even sent a space SUV to explore the Red Planet. For decades, they've been laying the groundwork for their real mission. By 2033, they plan to send humans to Mars.
To go to Mars, it is about 6 months to get there, and then you have to wait about 1.5 years on the surface for the planets to realign for a very short trip back. The Apollo 11 astronauts were in a tiny capsule.
Stand by for D1.
It had the volume on the lunar module, the equivalent of a C-block cell at Alcatraz if it was only 5 foot high. But you can't expect someone to live in a habitat like that over any period of time.
Yeah, which is why they're going to need a proper place to live on the Red Planet. The rub is, it'll have to be built by AI before they arrive.
We have a few minutes if you can find a couple more cords so we can get power for our electronics.
Okay, good. Okay.
NASA has been holding an open bake-off for architects and engineers to design a habitat that can be built autonomously on Mars.
Ready, Chris?
Now, the competition has reached the final round, with the winners getting $500,000 and a chance to join Project Red Planet.
I don't know how many space architects there are in the world. It's not a common job. There's not a whole lot of work yet, but my wildest dream is to get us into space faster, but also revolutionize how things are built on Earth.
So for Mars, we know we have to do the pressure vessel shape, right? And Jeff, you had investigated dome, right? Torus, cylinder. I'm an architect. My specialty is doing skyscrapers. I want my company to be the first builders in space. When we're building in space, like every little grain of material is going to have a value to it. So we want something that's going to be as strong as possible with as less material as possible. Like based on what you guys just printed, what do you think is actually easier to build?
We can kind of do whatever, as long as we have enough time to lay down the plastic.
In the past, you'd have to use experience and empirical evidence to figure out what to build, which is why AI is so transformative in the field of space exploration.
AI allows you to study millions of options, comparing iterations against each other, and find the optimal one.
This process is sometimes known as generative design, a fancy way of saying machines learn to do what architects do. Here, AI algorithms compare and predict how different designs and forms function in a virtual Martian environment.
That function could be structural strength, it could be thermal insulation, or you could just be trying to reduce the amount of material you need to construct a habitat. All right, so let's see if this idea works out.
There you go. So that's the dome.
But actually what we're going to do is turn it over.
Vertical habitat, like stacking on top of each other?
Yeah.
Life on Mars is not as simple as Bowie made it sound. The air is a toxic cocktail of mostly carbon dioxide. There's basically no gravity, no water. Dust storms can last for months. Temperature ranges from -50 to -200 degrees Fahrenheit.
Probably the biggest challenge is the temperature. The habitat has to survive the daily temperature swings, as if you were traveling from the equator to Antarctica every day.
They are working there, they are eating there, they are sleeping there, they are hanging out there. What kind of a lifestyle do we have? It should keep you protected from that dangerous outside, but it shouldn't give you the feeling that you're in prison.
There's a few, you can call them like atmospheric gradients in here, loud to quiet. Another one could be dirty to clean, and the third one, dark to light.
The AI, by doing lots and lots of iterations, it discovered a very optimized result. That concept of this kind of a vertical egg shape is actually going to perform a lot better for a variety of reasons.
But Mars isn't the only planet where AI-powered design is finding new, important applications.
There's an emerging field called geodesign, which is really about saying, how do we take AI, merging that with geography, merging it with civil and urban planning, put them together, and they can say, well, what happens if we put the wind turbines here? What erosion is going to happen if this here gets put in this area? How much density should you be allowed to build in this area? How much water is there? Is that water polluted? Geodesign has a profound ability to change our lifestyles, especially around cities and super cities.
Generative design helped propel David's group to the finals of NASA's cosmic competition in Illinois.
You're the guy? I'm the guy.
Going up against a team from Penn State.
Ready? 3, 2, 1, go.
As much as possible, everything here should simulate the process on Mars. They have 30 hours to construct a 1/3 scale model of the habitat, which is about 2 stories high. It has to be built with an AI-controlled 3D printer on its own.
We cannot test a building on Mars. We can't afford to ship that equipment to Mars in the first place because it's too heavy. So how do we know that what we build is strong enough? And the only way to do that is through AI.
The AI uses computer vision cameras to keep tabs on progress and adjust as needed. It's the same tech that's used to print stuff like auto parts and jet turbines.
Or maybe it'll just kind of do its...
It might do this, yeah.
We definitely want to utilize artificial intelligence so the robot or the system would actually understand what it's doing and become self-aware of the process.
So we're in auto mode? Do you have a timer going just in case?
You have the robot and it's very capable, but it's sort of blind and it can't think. It's just going to do what it's been told to do. So we need to basically take Jeffrey and Chris's experience and give that experience to the robot so that when it goes up to Mars, it makes the decisions that Jeffrey might have made. It makes the decisions that Chris might have made. It might even know that the best decision is like the average of what those two guys think.
I'm gonna time this later.
And remember, there's no Home Depot on Mars. So, AI-powered robots will also need to find, create, and process all the raw materials themselves.
So we're printing with what we call Mars-relevant materials that we find on Earth, but you can also find on Mars. People who are really interested in space actually also really, really care about the Earth. So the idea of harvesting a building has always appealed to me. The material that we selected to build on Mars, it's renewable, fully recyclable, and it's biodegradable. And as it turns out, that material is super strong.
The material is a mixture of basalt, a common rock on Mars, and plastic polymer made from corn. The problem is, you can't find corn on Mars. It's got to be grown by robots.
It's going to take a while before we can grow enough corn to print buildings on Mars. But we do envision a Mars agriculture.
Growing corn on Mars, is that even possible? And if it is, can we figure out a way to grow any kind of food, anywhere, anytime? It's a climate problem, but we also got to figure out the automation part.
Our ancestors in the Americas didn't bring everything with them that they would need for the next 1,000 years. They all lived off the land. And I firmly believe that that is the solution to colonizing the moon and Mars. It is extremely expensive to launch anything into space. And so rather than bringing up all the food and so on, I believe that what we should do is recreate that scenario and grow something on site completely done robotically. So you need to have some kind of AI being able to make those immediate decisions. This is science fiction, but it's also right on that tipping point of innovation where it's becoming reality.
Back on Earth, robotics is already starting to transform farming. For now, the work is mostly happening in a little town in the Netherlands, but it's not hard to imagine how far the implications might reach one day.
I have a passion for plants. I had it already when I was a very young child. I grew up on a farm. I wanted to understand why is it growing in this way and how can I make the plant grow even in a better way.
Leo's a plant guy whose research is not just making farming more sustainable, but might revolutionize a whole industry.
The Netherlands is a very tiny country. The area is 1 compared to 250 of the USA. In the Netherlands, we have about 10,000 hectares of greenhouses.
That's almost twice the size of Manhattan.
Some people call us the Silicon Valley of agriculture.
Turns out this tiny European country is now the world's second largest exporter of fresh food. Thanks to guys like Leo who are helping to cultivate some of the most sophisticated and productive greenhouses in the world. The secret? Vertical farming.
Ik denk dat het meer belangrijk is om een aantal planten te nemen en kijken hoe die trend loopt.
Duivenstein is a tomato grower.
Maar het belangrijkste is, wat heb je nodig om een plant optimaal te laten groeien?
The greenhouse here has the size of 50 football fields. And they are very well known for being extremely high yield in a very efficient way.
And the results are amazing. These greenhouses produce 7 times more tomatoes per acre than a traditional farm.
Je wil meerdere planten meten, dus ja. So the efficiency in the greenhouse is determined by many different things. It starts with the roots. We don't grow in the soil anymore, we grow on an artificial substrate. And they give exactly what the plant needs. Not more, not less. But it is not just the roots, it's the above ground environment, the air humidity, carbon dioxide concentration.
Sensors hidden among the plants generate a constant stream of data, including temperature, moisture, and soil nutrients. It's all about engineering climate and optimizing food.
All that information comes together in their computer to control the climate.
It's very important to collect the data and see some trends in it, so I can better do my climate control.
You have to look every day?
Every day, I check.
It's massive data. You cannot just look at an Excel file and see all those data. That just does not work. And that's where the artificial intelligence comes in, to making use of all those data to control the crop. People from all over the world, they're coming to Wageningen universities to study because it's ranked #1 in agriculture.
The robot is taking the leaf off, we generate the model. It is not only measuring the leaf, but also collecting the leaf samples.
Despite being on the cutting edge, Leo and his team are still in the seedling stage of AI farming.
Another plant comes in, and again, he takes a leaf off.
Cool.
Yeah.
To help him innovate further, he's brought in a guy at the intersection of biology, AI, and robotics.
So this poor guy is now damaged.
Yeah, so that's a disadvantage, yeah?
But the magic comes in when we start making sense of the data. Looking at how a batch of plants can be compared to another batch of plants where they had different treatments. And if we understand the differences between these batches, we can get a better understanding of how to optimize plant growth.
AI is what makes the magic, by helping them see what they otherwise could not. Using ultraviolet and infrared light, Rick and his team are training AI to measure photosynthesis in plants.
The AI is really helping us to bridge the gap between the raw data and the desired outcome.
And here we can measure also the chlorophyll fluorescence?
A lighting panel with camera, and the camera is measuring how plants turn light into growth.
By using computer vision, Leo and Rick can measure the light reflected by the leaves. This allows them to see how much energy a plant is generating on a molecular level.
Some of the leading applications of computer vision are in things like agriculture and manufacturing. One of the great opportunities is that while we can see visible light, there are many other parts of the electromagnetic spectrum like X-rays, infrared, ultraviolet. It's possible to build sensors for those, and this opens up a whole space of possibilities for machines to solve problems that we humans can't.
We can see all the individual leaves and the efficiency of the photosynthesis. This is very efficient if the plants can go to the camera. However, that can only be done when the plants are not too big.
You can see over here that just a normal color camera. Yeah. And over here the depth camera.
Yeah.
To make things even more efficient and awesome, Rick's team is working on an automated robotic arm.
The more red the color is, the farther the point is from the camera.
With a combination of depth perception and the mobile arm, the AI has the ability to recognize leaves, stems, and fruit in the dense greenhouse environment.
So it can see one leaf after the other, or the fruit behind the leaf.
Yeah.
There's a lot of labor in all those greenhouses for the harvesting of the fruits. The sweeper is a vehicle which can harvest in an automatic way.
We on purpose selected bell peppers because actually that crop is highly complicated. And the bell peppers are much more hidden from view. So we actually generated a virtual greenhouse and we trained an AI to figure out what are the leaves, what are the stems and what are the fruits, and also measure if that particular pepper is ripe enough to be harvested. The holy grail is that there will be greenhouses all over the world that are run by robots and AI.
If what happens near Amsterdam does not stay in Amsterdam, and AI precision farming becomes as commonplace as a tomato or bell pepper, can you imagine the implications for the human race?
My dream of the future is that we can grow the plants in a very efficient way, where there is not any harm for the environment, and that there is sufficient food for people all over the world.
Leo's dream can help sustain life on this planet. But what about elsewhere? Like Mars? Can we go that far? Where the climate's more fickle and nuts and peppers are hard to come by.
And
I gotta be your eyes. All right. Nice and easy.
We picked two materials that scored well, which was this biopolymer and this basalt, which is a composite, which is super strong.
The other team is using concrete. One of the main differences between polymers and concrete is that if concrete has to stop, concrete begins to harden in the pipes, and you can't unharden it. Whereas plastic, if we had to stop printing for whatever reason, you can reheat it and it's back to its original state.
You can kind of see the first coursing of that layer. That's kind of where it made that shell. I mean, this is what, 6 layers above that?
Remember, it's all about adaptation. Because humans won't be there to supervise, the AI robots need to be able to observe what's happening, recognize if there's a problem, come up with a solution to fix it, and fix it.
Up a little bit. We want to utilize machine learning and things so the system adapts to different circumstances.
Same goes for this competition. Because the robots are supposed to operate autonomously, the teams are penalized for any interventions they have to make.
The two types of interventions that we're dealing with are remote and physical. As long as we're pressing buttons and we're not adjusting the physical system at all, those are remote interventions. That doesn't count against us nearly as much.
The robots will be alone on Mars long before humans arrive, so if Jeff and Chris want the AI to learn to work autonomously, they need to teach and then step back.
Oh no.
Even if they see mistakes are coming.
Is it falling in? A little bit.
The humans see the problem, but the robot doesn't.
Because we're printing that layer so quickly, it's getting a lot of heat buildup, so it's slumping in that area.
Okay, we need to do something about it now. Let me be your eyes.
Just tell me when I'm like halfway or 3/4.
3, 2, 1, go.
Every time Jeff does the countdown, Chris slows the printer down to fill that spot in the print a little bit better.
2, 1, back.
It's a tough call. Do nothing, and the whole thing may fall apart. Intervene, and you get a penalty, each of which reduces their chances of winning.
3, 2, 1, return.
Remote. Sorry.
Jeff's only salvation is that Penn State is having problems of their own.
It's over there. I think it's fine. Yeah, I gotta get far away. I'm on this land.
3, 2, 1, return.
Is it getting better, Jeff?
We have to keep doing it at a slow speed.
So how many layers are left?
We don't really know. It's probably around like 55, 50, something like that.
55? Do you think we can make it?
With the race against the clock, we have to get to a certain diameter up towards the top so that our skylight can actually sit on top of the form. If we don't get high enough, it'll just fall inside.
3, 2, 1, go.
Penn State is almost done. Finishing faster does not win you the competition, but it counts for something.
We need to complete the other cone. That's what's happening now.
Okay, it looks like Penn State has just completed their cone. They are celebrating, and now we only have 10 minutes.
Meanwhile, Jeff's team still needs to put a roof over their head.
We should continue until the last moment.
The top must be narrow enough to support the round skylight that will complete the enclosure.
Jeff.
Jeff?
Yeah.
Are we printing another layer?
Yes.
No.
Yeah, Chris says no.
One more.
Can't do one more. It's 5:54, Jeff.
One more.
This is the last layer.
Yeah, I know. Almost there.
Tell me when.
While Penn State's done,
Handle mode?
Yes, please.
AI Space Factory stops the printer, so they'll have the last 5 minutes to install the skylight.
I'm relying on you. Yeah, I'll tell you if it's going to fall through. I can't see it from here, so. I know.
If they fail, they're likely to lose the competition.
We only have one shot of getting the skylight, so it's all or nothing.
Perfect so far. Okay.
Whoa,
No, stop.
Down. Forward.
All right. Hover right on top and then press play in the code. Down 18 inches. Nice and easy. Tell me when, Jeff. Go. Keep going slow like that.
30 seconds.
Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Disengage. You might fall. You might fall.
8, 7, 6.
Oh. It fell.
The material didn't have enough time to dry. The weight of the skylight pulled in on those hot layers, and the skylight, oh, it just fell. I heard that thud, and I was, oh. For just that glorious few seconds, it was there. It was there on the top.
The final score depends on several key structural tests.
One of the tests is the smoke test. NASA's going to take a smoke charge and put it inside of the printed habitat.
The smoke test is intended to prove the habitats are airtight. But without a sealed skylight in place,
we're going to be a chimney.
With a whopping 0 points on that one, AI Space Factory is comfortably in the underdog position heading into NASA's other key evaluation, the crush test.
Wow.
Mars is unforgiving. Needless to say, the structure must be strong and resilient to survive the competition, yeah, but also for life on Mars, because, you know, they got those dust storms that last forever and giant space rocks hurtling at you at 1,000,000 miles an hour.
I don't even know how heavy that excavator is. It's the biggest one I've seen in person.
All right, here we go.
Oh! Nice! Man. Whoa! Oh my god. This is insane.
About to cross our habitat. Is it happening? Oh! You see it lifting? The cat's lifting.
Oh shit!
Its entire weight's on that thing.
Oh my god, that's crazy. Holy crap! Holy shit, that's so much weight. Oh, this is a close. Oh! Yes! That was nuts!
AI Space Factory structure has resisted the crushing force of a 90-ton excavator. Will it be strong enough to endure life on a planet that doesn't have what we might consider good quality of life? Time will tell. For now, it's all about the judges. Will this surprising result be enough to sway them?
I'm stressed. My body can feel that I'm stressed. My back is pretty tense.
So we're going to award all our money. And first place goes to Team AI Space Factory.
Couldn't have gone better.
Life on Mars is not possible yet. Getting there, let alone surviving, is orders of magnitude more difficult than the moon. But NASA is exploring it. And now, so are some private companies, like Elon Musk's SpaceX. They envision a future where intergalactic travel is not just possible, but normal, like taking a Caribbean cruise.
Welcome to space.
Some even think it's necessary because if we can't fix the planet, aren't moonshot projections like Mars, Leo's precision farming, ultimately about adaptation to a changing climate, more people, a plan B in case we can't get our act together? Or maybe it's just about a better tomato.
The population is growing. The demand for food is rapidly increasing. So artificial intelligence holds the key to improve the yield.
We want to be the first people to build outside of our planet. And the only way to do that is through AI.
If we want to go to Mars, if we want to populate other planets, these types of things require these advanced technologies.
Space technology is the ultimate test of ideas and ambitions. I'd like to take some of the DNA from our work and revolutionize how things are built on Earth. We should always think about ways in which what we're doing improves Earth.
Hey, I'm gonna...
For a test driver, and I said, that has to be the perfect job.
Okay, but this isn't just about Maureen. We've all heard about self-driving cars, but self-driving trucks, why are they setting the pace of the autonomous driving industry?
We already have robotic airplanes. Most airliners fly themselves. But self-driving cars are a harder problem because the roads have a lot more things going on than the air does. And driving on the freeway is much easier than driving in the city. So we will see fleets of automated trucks, I think, long before we see self-driving cars in the city.
The company of TuSimple starts with a dream. A dream that we wanted to build the AI technology for autonomous trucks.
Can you give me one full rotation to the right? The truck was originally not made to be automated. Okay, can you give me 50% throttle? We add our intelligence, the servers, and all the sensors to make this work.
We're in the sleeper of a TuSimple tractor. We have removed what normally would be beds and refrigerators, and we've added our computer, which is the brains of the AI.
Driving a car is what is called an AI complete problem. If you solve it, you solve every other problem in AI. However, to solve it, you need to solve every problem in AI. So it requires vision, it requires robotic control, so it requires motion and navigation, but it also requires social interaction with the other drivers. So at the end of the day, in order to drive a car well in the city, you need everything. It requires an enormous amount of common sense.
Common sense. That's what Maureen is doing here. Overseeing the AI truck as it learns to navigate real-world conditions, ready to take over if anything goes wrong. Today, they're taking a 10-mile loop to test scenarios that a human driver might encounter. Can this 10-ton vehicle safely navigate a busy freeway? Can it merge and change lanes?
3, 2, 1.
Autonomous driving started.
My name is David Ruggiero, and I'm a test engineer with TuSimple. My job is to let her know what's happening. Let her be absolutely comfortable the truck is doing what it's supposed to do. Gear change. There we are. When the vehicle is engaged, she is fully aware of what's going on around the truck, but she doesn't have to touch anything.
That's right.
Clear on the right.
Clear, not clear on the left.
See the left approaching.
Never is one drive or one day ever the same. Left is now clear. So we're gonna go. We're good. The truck was cautious.
So I'm still seeing full braking.
It was probably overly cautious. Let's go manual.
Yeah, we can do that.
Autonomous driving on.
There we go.
Ready?
Autonomous driving started.
45.
That's good. Center lane.
I feel like I have a relationship with the truck. Easy, easy. I talk to the truck. I tell it when it does good. I've never been a test driver before, and it's never been a truck driving by itself before. We're both actually learning together. Still green.
Still green. We're off throttle. Slight brake.
Red light. Left turn.
I see the lead van.
Human drivers cause 30,000 or more deaths per year. Long-haul trucking can be dangerous, it can be boring, and therefore it's ripe for automation.
Okay, I see the other car moving. I do see green.
Still green.
Still green.
Still green.
I see no oncoming. We are making the turn.
That'll work. All right, the new merge ramp.
Merging onto a highway is difficult and dangerous. It requires mastering a complicated set of physical and mental skills, having keen sensory and spatial awareness, preparing for unpredictability and human fallibility.
And we're in.
And doing it all fast and fresh each time. Otherwise, you risk crashing, or worse.
Turn signal is on.
Okay, I'm showing the left
We are
intention.
going to have a truck next to us, but he's moving over.
Okay, confirmed.
Looks like we are clear to get over. The pickup is moving.
This truck is measuring what's coming up behind it, how fast they're coming up behind it.
Looks a little congested up there.
It has a full 360 view all the time.
The AI uses the images that are coming from the cameras with other sensors, LiDAR and radar. LiDAR is a laser rangefinder that is measuring the distance to objects 360 degrees around. It gives us a three-dimensional picture of the world.
In the virtual world, there's a direct correspondence of the map and the location where the vehicle is, and the behaviors of other vehicles, their locations, their speed, their future intentions. And once all these things are recreated, it's basically asking the computer to play a game.
Okay, target front continuing at 57.
Good job.
When I'm looking at the data that the truck is feeding me, not only am I seeing the current environment, but I'm seeing ahead into the future.
And we have a slow vehicle cutting us off.
Cut in at a 51.
That was a good one.
Okay, saw the cut in. If we need to make a lane change, the truck's going to know before I do.
Okay, I currently don't have, there we go, I have an intention. We're going right now.
Left change.
Fine, good. All right, let's go.
Okay, so this is where things get interesting. This truck's tricked out with sophisticated cameras and software, but it still doesn't have one critical element. The thing that AI may never have.
The central problem in AI is that human beings have common sense and computers do not. We take common sense for granted. We know how the world works, and everything that we do in our daily life involves common sense.
Pretty steady straight now on our left.
I see it.
And people have been trying to imbue AI with common sense since the beginning. And what is extraordinary is, at the end of the day, how little progress we've made.
The end game is that one day, the AI truck will not need Maureen, David, or any person to ride with it. Each one of these test runs is a building block toward that goal, designed to help it learn how humans operate and make decisions, even when you get thrown a curveball.
Yeah, this truck is messing with us.
It's catching a vehicle.
Yeah, he's all over it's coming close to the line.
I have a left intention. Lane is blocked.
We were having a little bit of challenges from one of your camera trucks.
All I need is a gap. Just looking for the gap.
Come on, you can pass it. It's okay. The truck was cautious because it couldn't predict what that camera truck was doing.
Why is he going so slow?
The film crew's vehicle was shooting the truck for the whole afternoon, and yeah, it wasn't driving normally.
The camera truck was what we would consider a non-compliant vehicle. It was doing things that a normal driver, you wouldn't expect them to do.
He doesn't trust it.
Okay, I see the cut in, 60 and slowing, 52 and slowing. Still seeing the left intention.
Okay, no
right is
clear.
Nope, it's full.
Left change.
We're not going.
He's all over the place, that guy.
The truck wants to pass the camera crew, but the constantly changing speeds and unusual behavior confuses the AI. So it refuses to take the risk.
Cancelled.
There are behaviors that the truck has to learn to become human in some sense, because not everybody else is operating at the same level.
All right.
Turns out that getting the first basic systems was a big milestone, but then there's this long tail of difficult situations that are much harder to solve. When you're merging, do you have to give way or does it make sense to go forward? That requires a level of understanding that we humans barely have, but machines aren't there yet. That's definitely got to be the most interaction I've seen with one vehicle.
Big takeaway on today's run, there is no such thing as a perfect run. Eventually, we hope that the trucks react to a change environment as quickly as we can, regardless of what we throw at it.
Okay, slow down for the gate. And it looks like they're going to let us through.
Beautiful.
Good people.
We still have a lot of work to do to validate the system, assure that everything is perfected, and this will take substantial driving experience, simulation experience.
Watching something develop over time, you never thought it would learn like this, and now it is learning, and you feel like a proud parent. It was making some awesome decisions that I've never seen it make before. I get asked all the time by people, oh, you're taking truck drivers' jobs away by having autonomous trucks. And I don't believe that's true, because it's not taking away jobs, it's taking the place of a job that a driver doesn't want to do.
Thanks for riding with Too Simple. Autonomous driving off.
What Maureen thought was the twilight of her working life actually became the dawn of something new. And it's an age-old phenomenon. Tractors didn't make farming obsolete, and video didn't kill the radio star. It just provided new opportunities.
洗顔専科のパーフェクトホワイトクレイ。ホワイトクレイ配合のミクロ濃密泡が毛穴の汚れをかき出します。さらにメラニンを含む古い角質まで絡め取る。くすみの原因となる汚れもすっきり。だから紫外線が気になる季節もワントーン明るいまっさらすっぴん。もやもやしたら洗顔専科とリラックマとカオルさん。働ぽ。既然首創雪巴冰感霜，獨特雪巴質感，冰爽保濕。今個夏天肌膚都要食雪巴。既然
new technology is changing how we think about work.
Hey, Jared, Dan, he's on 424, should be good.
10-4.
I think the biggest changes that we face when we think about AI and the future of AI is what do we do when AI changes what the job functions are and what the workforce looks like, which is going to do. So this is a fear because change people don't like and change that you don't understand is terrifying for a lot of people.
Port Long Beach is the second busiest port in North America, and the first fully automated container terminal in the United States.
To most people, shipping and logistics aren't that sexy, but to an AI, it's a dream. With over 14,000 people moving more than 8 million giant containers around the world, this port handles about $200 billion worth of cargo a year. Automating this industry will make it more efficient for sure, but also safer.
As you can see, this fence here, from this point on, all the way about 1/8 of a mile that way, is a fenced-off no-man zone, running entirely off of software. In the old design, you had the vessel's activity mixing with the truck activity, competing for space, congestion, safety issues.
But the vessel size just continued to grow, 7 times larger than the ships that we ever had in the beginning. So there was a need for a new model, which is what LVCT is.
When a ship pulls alongside, we're using different algorithms to figure out traffic, scheduling, dispatching, and planning. We're doing this with 10 different cranes at the same time, 50 different vehicles at the same time, and we have 30,000 different places to put that container in the yard.
When we offload a container from a ship, the first thing it's going to do is get picked up by a ship-to-shore crane. That does have an operator inside.
Hey, Mario.
Yeah, I copied.
Okay, we'll let you start on.
Ship-to-shore cranes, we will set containers on the platform. On that platform, there are over 20 cameras that use optical character recognition, or OCR. Another crane will then pick it up, put it onto a fully automated vehicle. That vehicle will drive through the yard and it'll get to the right spot, planned by the system.
What looks like a little wad of bubble gum, these are transponders buried in the ground. They're in a grid pattern. There's more than 10,000 out on the production field. There's an antenna on the front and the rear, and they read them as they drive, and then transmit that to the system to let it know where it is.
Once it reaches the yard, an automated stacking crane will pick it up and deposit it into a yard block. From the block, it'll eventually get deposited onto a truck or onto a bomb cart where it can make its way onto a train.
I don't have my key.
On my way.
That's why we work in teams.
Yeah, exactly.
They say that we can eventually learn to adapt to an environment that mixes robotic and human elements. But it's more difficult for machines to adapt to us. So here, they need to be separated because of safety.
Because humans are unpredictable, automation can be physically dangerous to people because if I'm a 200-ton machine and I don't see you, I might just run you over.
This is a high danger area. When we go out on the field, we call for a restriction and they block a certain area of the production field. No AGVs know to go in that area and we can safely work.
You want these two right here? Yeah. Okay, cool.
This facility, it is fully automated, but it's not as if someone comes in, pushes a button, and puts their feet up on their desk. It is still employing hundreds of individuals on any given day.
How's everything look on that side, Eric? We got a broken rail over here, Julio. We're gonna have to weld it up real quick. Okay. Grab my hood from inside the truck, please. Here we go, guys. Watch your eyes. Eyeballs.
This is an asset-intensive facility. The number of mechanics necessary to maintain this facility has certainly grown.
My background is automation. That's why I decided to come here, because it was high-tech.
Instead of a yard crane operator in a cab alone all day, now we're working remotely in the operations room.
About 80% of the time, most of the faults are resettable from here.
Okay, easy fix.
Easy fix. I'm Garrett Garrido, crane mechanic here at LVCT. This is the central operations system. A bypass key will allow the operator to bypass a function.
Automation can make the workplace safer, and this is a good example. Taking someone out of the yard and putting them into the control room.
Right here, I'm gonna need to move this container over because it's not sitting too good. You ready?
Yep, go ahead.
AI, like any technology that comes into our society, it changes the workforce. There's this misconception that there will be fewer of these new jobs. That's actually not the case.
Let me move it back.
There are new jobs. There are different types of jobs.
I was a crane operator. Back in the day, we'd have to climb up 5 stories into the cab. It was a little hard, especially on the back. And then when automation started, they just shifted me over. And now it's a lot easier.
If you don't embrace it, you're just going to fight it, and it's not going to, you got to use it as a tool.
Right on the money.
You know, our obligation was to retrain those same individuals into the new jobs that technology has created. We are the progress that was needed for the goods movement industry.
For the foreseeable future, there will continue to be a lot of things that only humans can really do.
So I've dispatched a mechanic out to STS-1.
Okay.
And so the future of work is not humans being replaced by machines. It's humans figuring out how to do their job better with the help of machines.
Structured environments are good for automation. Smooth surfaces, right angles, less chance for chaos. But what about more complex human environments? Can we learn to work with robots hand in hand?
Oh, there we go.
Wait a second, stop. Let's see if that works.
RoboHub is a premier robotics incubator at the University of Waterloo in Ontario, Canada.
Gripper's not working on the left. Maybe if I turn a little bit.
One thing they're doing is developing AI and robotics to use in environments that are unstructured, more human, like at home.
Calm down, calm down.
Talos is one of the most advanced humanoids on the planet. It can walk, it can talk, it can see you in 3D, but it can't do most of those things out of the box. So you really have to take it as a tool and teach it how to do a lot of these things.
On Talos, we want to explore two different aspects of AI. First, to perceive objects in the world.
So it has cameras in its eyes, and it also has a depth camera where it can actually see how far away things are within its vision, much like we do with our depth perception. And as soon as Talos has that ability to see, oh, there's a human here, there's an object back here, then it can start building a map of its world so that it knows in 3D what is all around it.
Computer vision is a way to mimic how we see the world. I can say, well, that's a TV, or that's a cat, or that's a dog. So what is it that I'm looking at when I'm looking at an image? Computer vision is trying to figure out what are the objects that are in this image that represents what we would understand.
And now I can teach the robot basically by grabbing it, and I will just gently move the robot around and guide it towards the bottle. And you just hit the right trigger button to execute the same motion. Should I close it? No, it will do that automatically this time because I already kind of integrated this. Also, we want to explore application of AI in understand locomotion in terms of balancing.
No, it's going to crash.
Played too much.
The biggest misconception about robots is that they are more capable than they are, that they're more generalized than they are. And they're not quite there yet.
Okay, let's give it one more shot.
So you may have seen humanoid robots that can do parkour, do backflips. Only ones that are really comparable are the Valkyrie that was designed by NASA, of which there's only 2 or 3 in the world, and the Atlas from Boston Dynamics. But most of them have very few sensors, and a lot of the time they will be remote controlled or given a very clean prescripted path. And in a situation like that, what they're doing is pushing the limits of the mechanical systems. That's very similar to what we're doing here, except on our case, we're pushing the software side.
The next step going forward is to start replacing all of our dumb, blind, dangerous machines with machines that have sensors and vision built into them that can work side by side with humans to be more productive and safer at the same time.
Maybe we can carry a table with the robot together.
So if we put the table in its hands.
So for a task where the robot might be carrying something with a human, it's going to need to be able to feel how hard the human is pushing, pulling, much like if you're being guided in a dance.
Can we also tighten the grippers, Alex?
Yeah.
So as humans, we have a sense of touch, and we have a sense of how much force we're applying and is being applied to us. With Talos, it doesn't have a skin, it's hard plastic everywhere. So it can only really sense what's in its motors.
This will take a second.
We have to teach it how to translate that into sort of a sense of touch.
Try to keep it somewhat level, but if you kind of twist the table as well.
Let me show you how much is actually possible.
The one who writes the controller is always braver than the rest of us.
And you just start pulling a bit, and then the robot will walk with you. Talos is using compliant control in the upper body, which basically makes him soft. The robot automatically senses the forces being applied to the table. The human is still fully in control. This is very important to the safety of humans surrounding the robot.
Within robotics, the areas where you're really going to see the important advances are those environments that are relatively controlled and predictable. So a good example is an Amazon warehouse. In those environments, you already see lots of people and also lots of robots. and they're working together.
Once you have a process and you've reduced it to an algorithm, you can replicate it so that if a robot can learn a whole new skill, you can copy that knowledge through the cloud to all the other robots, and now they all have that same skill. It's a whole new world, a whole new kind of economics, and we're just beginning to understand its implications.
A whole new automated world still hard to imagine? Maybe it's more about what we're gaining than what we're losing. Will automation make things faster? More efficient? More productive? Tastier?
I've been making pizza for 15 years. In my life, I've probably made 2 million pizzas. So coming to Zoom was awesome because it was like, wow, this is different than any other pizzeria.
So I got the idea for Zoom about 7 years ago when I realized that big pizza was built on one central conceit, which is that there wasn't a better way to do it. I thought, I wonder if there's a better way to do it.
Big pizza. Doesn't have the same ring to it as big data or big pharma. But it's not just about pizza. It's also about big waste. Last year in the US, about $200 billion worth of food was wasted. $200 billion. That's a lot down the drain, and also up in the sky. Waste is a huge contributor to greenhouse gas emissions.
Perhaps half of all food that's produced in the world is wasted. Artificial intelligence can help us change the supply chain so that they're much more efficient. We can then have an impact there that already has huge implications.
One of the classic tensions in every food business is producing too much and having waste, or not producing enough food and having stockouts. It takes years and years of practice for a human to forecast that, but that's actually a data problem that machines, and AI in particular, are really, really good at getting right. At its core, Zoom is a fundamentally new logistics model. We predict what we're going to sell before you even order. And that whole predictive layer of the business is all driven by AI.
When Zoom first called me, I obviously thought, why on earth does a pizza company want a chief technology officer? But then when I heard the vision, the fact that we were going to be able to change an industry by focusing on this amazing end-to-end platform, which just happens to also produce amazing pizza, then it made sense.
To disrupt Domino's, Zoom uses machine learning to try and forecast how much pizza people want, what kind, and when. It crunches dozens of different variables: location, day of week, weather, what's on TV, past ordering trends, and then predicts how many Sergeant Pepperonis San Francisco will want on a Tuesday, for example.
Our supply chains are incredibly inefficient. Our food processing systems waste a lot of food. If we could improve predictions, we could eliminate most of that waste. We would know what the demand was going to be, where the products were going to be, and ultimately that would make us all better off.
Absolute perfection would be no pizza gets wasted, and anytime a customer looks, there's always one of the type of pizzas they would like available. So it's an optimization problem. How close can you get?
Optimization, right. But what else? End-to-end is not just about prediction. It also involves automation. Or cooking.
Pizza and robots. Very exciting concept.
Pepe and Giorgio, they dispense the sauce. We have Marta here, who spreads the sauce on the pizzas.
So we're still on Veggie Supremes, guys. These are looking good.
And down here at the end, we have Bruno, who helps deliver the pizza from the assembly line to the ovens or around the bypass. And in the back, Vincenzo, who helps load the pizzas onto the cartridges.
Based on its algorithm, the AI predicts how many pizzas and what kind to load onto the mobile kitchens. When orders come in, it also decides which mobile kitchen will bake it and exactly when to put each one in the oven.
Every single pizza has its own cooking profile and recipe. So each one of these ovens actually is a robot. They're connected to cloud services. They're always monitored, making it possible for one person working in here to cook up to 120 pizzas an hour.
It's humans and technology working together. It's pretty awesome. And that and the pizza. I love pizza. Pizza is like one of my favorite foods.
We use AI and simulation around how do we get the right delivery estimated time of arrival. The AI can suggest, here's the best place to put a truck so we get the hottest, freshest product to our customers.
We have a barbecue chicken, barbecue. When we get the orders, our system controls the ovens, which controls the cook time and how long the pizzas need to cook.
The AI can change the workflow on one of our vehicles to make sure the pizza's cooked at the last moment.
And then the system chooses which driver to send it to.
It's algorithms plus, it's AI plus humans, not AI instead of humans.
Now we have a pineapple that is ready to go. Their predictions for the amount of pizza that we carry on the truck are pretty spot on. Last Supreme of the night. Sometimes we'll have a bunch of pizzas left over by the end of the night, and we'll think the prediction was probably wrong for today. Then boom, an order comes in, and the next thing you know, another order comes in, like 8 pizzas at once.
All of that data gets fed back into the learning algorithms, so every week we're trying to evolve our learning algorithms to do a better job than the week before. Part of what we're optimizing for is reducing waste. Maybe if you could use prediction to go back into the supply chain and predict more accurately what you need to grow and where you need to get that product, I think you can fundamentally change things.
We're in the early stages of a massive change in technology that are allowing machines to do a lot of tasks that previously only humans could do.
The future of work is evolving. Automation's making the workplace safer, greener, more efficient for sure.
If we can figure out how to integrate AI technologies not to replace humans but to augment their abilities, to make life more fun, to make us more productive and more creative, I think that's where the power of the machine will come.
Thousands of years ago, we were hunter-gatherers. Eventually, we became farmers. And now that we're maybe entering this fourth industrial revolution, one that connects the physical, biological, and digital. It's not just jobs that are being changed by AI, but us. We are the progress. So why focus on the rear view when we can look to the road ahead to see what we're becoming?